Hey everyone, it's Mitch here, and I'm back with a DKS tutorial. So this is a continuation from last week where I did Sherbet Land, and you guys seem to quite enjoy that, and I'm glad that it helped some people. So I figured I'll do a DKS one for this week, and hopefully if this is received well and it helps some people, I'll continue with some other tracks that I'm comfortable on, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So this track's mainly going to focus is, first of all, I'll mention it's a very tech-heavy track, but I'm going to be doing, I'll brief over the Jimmey cut at the chasm section, but this will mainly be focused on the double shortcut category, and hopefully you guys will be able to set times that you're happy with and be able to drive the track fast for online or whatever you need. And there will be timestamps. I forgot to mention that in the last video, but there are timestamps. So let's start off. I'll start off with the first turn. This first turn, we want to delay drift. There isn't really a visual cue for it. I use a ghost, and I know most other players do. So for the first turn, you can do a few start slides. One thing I will mention, you definitely don't want to go neutral on this, because you're driving a lot more track, and it's just like a time you're losing close to 0.1 compared to doing the two start slide options you have. And those are going to be doing neutral at the beginning, and then when you're in a start boost, tilting hard right like that. And then the second one, I didn't save state. The second start slide option you can do, both of them work. You can just do a simple rear line at the beginning like that, and then when you're in your boost, you hold left, and you achieve the same angle. So there isn't really much this turn. You can play it a little bit safe if you're a little bit nervous, but for the most part, it's just going to be a delay drift, kind of hard to spot. There isn't really a visual cue, but on the release, you're going to want to not instant to release, but you're going to want to release it a little bit quicker than delaying it, like a spare turn on LC, for example. You're going to want to release it quickly and wheel it to the left, and my visual cue for this is this little red marker on this middle set of lanes. So this one right here, anything to the right of this, and you're going to most likely bounce on the exit. Anything to the left of this, being like 2.5, like being a half, like in between these is fine. It just might make it a little bit more challenging, and it has a higher risk. So basically, the more left you go, the more risk there is. So I'm going to reset and demonstrate a few first turns. You can notch between hard right and soft drift as well on the first turn. Just like that, and angle it at that second red marker right there. And that leads into the cannon, which this is a good alignment roughly. Want to be landing roughly in the middle of this section because it's less bouncy. Anything to this right part where it starts to slope is where you start to get bounces, and the cannon exit is pretty brutal sometimes. So I'll demonstrate a first turn, but I'll stop before the cannon and then explain the cannon. Let's do the other start slide here. Just like that. And this would be a little bit far right, so this would be risking a bounce, pretty much. So I'm just going to reline like this, save state into the cannon, and yeah. I'm going to pause for this section because I need to explain. So the cannon exit is pretty difficult in the landing. There are a few ways you can go about it. However, the one that I find most consistent is just simply nosediving, holding up on the analog, and then holding left when you land, a little bit before you land. And hopefully if you did the first turn properly, you're going to get a proper cannon exit. So you can see my inputs, kind of like that. It's a little bit hard to explain. What the hell? Okay. But yeah, just on the input view one more time. I just pull back at the very end. Like that. And just go directly to holding left. And as you can see from the landing, it's pretty favorable for the first turn. I haven't really demonstrated that. That was an example of a bad one. That's because I held nosedive too long. Want to pull back just in time. That was a little bit too early. But it gave a good angle for the first turn. For the first zipper, I should say. It's kind of like that. So, another way you can go about it is by kind of holding an angle like this. And that can work. I'm pretty sure I've seen Blake do it sometimes. It's kind of like this, and it's like a top left angle. And you can kind of land like that. And you can transition into hard left. It's kind of whatever you guys are most... Not like that. The way that you tell if you got it is if Funky's... You can't see his front tires. So kind of like that. That might help. So it's not nosediving the entire way. So if you guys are struggling to do this one, where you go from directly nosedive to hard left, then you might want to try that. Anyways, I'm going to keep that save state to explain this. So, this first zipper, now, I want to mention, first and foremost, don't get into the trap of flying really high off this zipper. Obviously not like that, but you don't even want to focus on how quickly you release the MT. In fact, you want to hold it in, and your aim for this turn is to go as low as possible off this zipper, while having a good MT boost. And the visual cue that I like to use when landing is this kind of patch right here. Wait, let me double check. Is it this patch? I can't really spot it while I'm slowed down. So let me do this and I'll show where it is. So shoot low. Yeah, just like that. See where the zipper, it kind of bends back in. This is a perfect spot for the landing because it allows you to realign really effectively for these mounds right here. So if you just watch the input viewer, I'll do some small adjustments from kind of soft drift and just kind of dip low off of it. Main thing is going to be holding in the MT though. You don't have to insta release the MT. Just like that. And I release it very late as well. I release it right before I go off the zipper. And I try to shoot as low as possible and land on that polygon. There, I missed it. I probably could have actually gotten that if I put a little bit more aggression into it. That was just poor. Gotta commit more at the beginning. The save set's throwing me left, but even this is fine, and it sets you up good for these mounts right here. So, I'm pretty sure we can move from the save state past the cannon, and we can focus on this part right here. Now this is very important, where you land from here. There are a few ways to go about this. So it's landing here. Now, there are two ways to do this. So one thing that I used to do, which used to help a lot for consistency, was a wheelie cancel into, I believe it was just a hop left. However, what I like to do now is I stay in my wheelie, hop the second I land, and hold hard left, and I wheelie right as that goes off, and that angles perfectly. If you ever watch World Record, that's what World Record does. It angles perfectly into these double mounds. I'm pretty sure I have to keep this save set as well, but you can just see the inputs for what I do here. So keep the wheelie, hop left, and late wheelie. As you can see, it sets us up perfectly for those double mounds. I'm going to do a few examples of this, and then I'll move on to what I used to do, and what is a little bit more consistent than that. But this is the fastest way to do it. Even this is fine. Hop the second I land, and that one was a little bit difficult to recover from. I'm pretty far left out the cannon, so this is a little bit challenging, but hop left, wheelie. That was a late hop, so the reason I had bad angle for those mounts there was because I hopped late. You want to hop with this method this second you leave the boost panels off the zipper, the second you leave. Like that, kind of. That was like a very high zipper, but you get the point. But most important thing is just landing on that polygon. It is a little bit high, but it still works. I missed the wheelie though because I'm bad. Don't use nunchuck. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm bad. Haven't played this track in a while. But hop the second you land, and wheelie. And it says pretty good for these mounds. I'm going to do a few more examples, and then move on to the more consistent way of doing it. Just like that. Hop the second you land. And it's pretty, like, it's not as intense on the, well, just the section in general is not as intense on the inputs as a lot of people might perceive it to be. It's really not that hard. You just see it, the input viewer. All I'm doing is just holding hard left, hopping, well there I missed it, hop too early, like mentioned at the start of the video, this is a very technical track, so there's a lot of room for error. But as you can see, pretty simple on the input. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the way that I used to do this. So this is not as fast, but it is very consistent. So what it essentially is a wheelie cancel. If I can actually get to it. This is very far left out the cannon, but this will work. All I do is a wheelie cancel. Wait, would I even hop? Let me try to remember here, sorry. I haven't done this strat in a very long time, but it's pretty safe. Yeah, this angle out the cannon, I'm going to angle just further left to make it easier. This is a lot more comfortable. Missed the wheelie there. Missing the wheelie there is fine, by the way. It loses a little, but you can still recover from it alright. Yeah, so I just hop left like that. That's all I would do. So I wouldn't... Yeah, just a very simple hop left. And wheelie cancel right before I land. One thing about that... What the fuck is this, dude? Okay, this is actually really weird. One thing I would do with the wheelie cancel method is if I overshot it, I forgot to do it there, I just did the left hop method. If I was to overshoot it, I could wheelie cancel very early. So I'm going to try to do a few proper ones and then demonstrate what that looks like. Just wheelie cancel and then just nudge a little bit to adjust for the wheelie cancel. Wheelie cancel, hop. Kind of like that. Pretty consistent, not as fast. And I'm going to purposely overshoot it here and demonstrate an early wheelie cancel. So if I can actually get the wheelie, dude, this wheelie is patched. So you can kind of like wheelie cancel like that, hop when you land. That's the only risk though, is that since I hold hard left there, I hit that fence. With that wheelie cancel method, you have to adjust a little bit. So you can't just hold hard left the entire time, because most likely you're going to hit this fence. Anyways, yeah, so this wheelie timing, it's really dependent on your angle. And you just want to try, usually as late as possible, and hold hard right while going off this to angle yourself for these mounds, because if you don't hold hard right, then you're just going to have this kind of angle. But for the mounds are actually pretty easy. A lot of people overcomplicate them, but these aren't as scary as they look. And one thing I want to mention before I start explaining how to do them is that doing only one mound, like doing this one for example, and then missing this third one is completely fine. You don't even lose anything. It doesn't lose much. So if you're comfortable with doing just one mound and you're not really comfortable going for the last one, then doing this one is fine. And for these tricks, you want to be doing left tricks off them. And there are certain analog stick like movements that you want to do as you go off the mound and as you land from them to help you touch the ground when you need to, kind of. So it's just to like control airtime essentially. You can do, I believe it's called the Doom strat. And what that is, it actually isn't that slow, believe it or not. Yeah, like this is, it's kind of a joke or a meme, but this actually isn't bad at all. So what you do is you essentially wheelie off of it and then wheelie cancel right before you go off of it. Kind of like that. And that actually isn't that bad. I can get a flat one. Okay, yeah, you should nosedive off of it. But doing that is fine. Okay. And even just wheeling over it, I mean, it's not horrible, but you get what I mean. Anyways, we're going to go into this cut now. So this shroom is pretty self-explanatory. All it basically is just shroom boost and then hop left wheelie. Just like that. And your angle exiting it is pretty important, because these moguls are where you can lose a lot of time. So this is essentially just shooting it straight down the guts. In between these two moguls right here, you just want to aim as perfect in the middle as possible. And there's going to be a certain rhythm you'll see with perfect moguls. I'm not sure how many frames the mogul trick is, but it's where you can save and lose a lot of time. With this right here as well, I've also seen people do this, where you like hop into it, like that, and then you have a lot more trick boosts going into those, which is fine, I guess. Doesn't really lose, it's just personal preference. For me though, I just prefer doing this and getting the shroom boost out the way as quick as possible. And then just trying to get that angle as best as I can, just straight in between those two moguls right there. And then that leads into the hardest part of the track, probably the second hardest part, these Moguls right here. So the best way to go about these, I'm going to try, see if I can get a proper save state. Okay, this should be fine. So the best way you want to do these Moguls is to, if I can get a proper save state, is to hop trick this first one. So you want to hop right as you touch this part right here, and hopefully that sends you low. So we'll see right here, kind of like that. And then you get those four or five Moguls. I'm not sure how many it is. Kind of like that, 1, 2, 3, 4 Moguls. And that, for the most part, leads well into the cut. However, if you miss them, then it's fun. You can kind of do some recoveries like that. And one thing as well, if you look at my analog stick while I do these Moguls, let me see if I can get this Jimmey. Hold up. Okay, we suck. Alright, you'll see that I'll be doing a mixture of tail dive and nosedive. And that's so I can fix my airtime on these with this angle. And just in general, be able to control where I land more often. And also, you don't want to instant-trick these Moguls, but you don't want to delay trick them either. Doesn't really matter that much, it just really is dependent on what you're going for in terms of height on the Moguls. Like there are tail dives and my back wheel hits that one earlier. The late tricks where I go lower, nose dive and tail dive to get my airtime proper. If you miss the wheelie like that, that's fine. You just want to be careful that you don't overshoot it. So I'll do a few examples of these. That's fine. This doesn't focus on the Mogul exit, by the way. That's going to be a separate part that I want to explain. This is also another case. So these are a very safe way of doing the Moguls. I said itch my nose, sorry. This is a very safe way of doing the Moguls, if I can try control it, get it here. Kind of landing on that Mogul right there, in this gap back here. Landing on this Mogul is fine. You shoot down, and you'll notice a pattern where I believe you go off this one, and the aim for the Moguls is landing. This is the sweet spot right here for old shortcut. Landing here, and it can work with landing here as well. This is fine. Anything around this range, anything from like here to here is completely fine. Just this is the landing spot. Just know that that's the best landing spot. Okay, right here. I'm gonna pause because I'm not sure how I did that. But anyways, yeah. If you fail to get the low Moguls, you can do this, which is fine. And you land right here, and it's always very consistent to land in the spot right here. And that sets up perfectly for the old shortcut. Now, what's the best way to go about this? Probably just shroom boost into here. I might actually just explain it first. I'm going to get a save state here though before I do that. Hopefully that works properly. Let's see. It's going to be a nightmare, dude. Oh yeah, you can also hop trick these Moguls. Don't count that out. You can hop trick them. I guess we'll just start here. I'm just going to save a state. This is really tricky, especially with how bouncy Summit is. Okay, so with the old shortcut approach, this is going to be the hardest part of the track for a lot of people to understand. Is that you don't want to be necessarily parallel to the fence. You want to be angled inwards. It's because you're cutting off less track, and it gives you a more favorable drop down, which is essentially the speed that you go down here from. You're more likely to get a higher speed. So there are two ways of going about this, and that's with a hop like that. That's very poorly done. So you can just go with a right hop. I can actually get it. Kind of like a parallel angle. This is like a very safe way of doing it. But this is for the approach, by the way, not the whole card. Kind of like that. This is like the safe way of doing it. But the only problem with doing it like this is that, see how I'm going very wide going into it? I'm not really cutting off the most part of it. So that's why I prefer going inwards like this, kind of angling more directly into it. Even angles like this is fine. I've seen angles like this that work. And then you do a spin drift. So I'm actually going to try to teach the spin drift method because this is what I prefer. And also I prefer doing the wheelie here. It's just that with save states it's really hard to explain. But this is the way, one of the outcomes you can get by doing the spin drift cut. So it's going to be angled in more like that. And the spin drift is really getting like the momentum from the spin drift is very inconsistent sometimes. One of the things that I see a lot of people get wrong is that they're going to hop and land on the very edge of this. That's not really what you want to do. What you want to do, and this is for the spin drift, is that you go right, left, right on the analog, and you have to let go of accelerate while you go down here. And you want to be landing here, in fact, when you do the right, left, right input. That was not very good. I went very high off that, but I was still able to recover it fine. This save state's bad. I'm actually just going to start off the Mogul since it's slanted. We're going to start here. Just like that, going into it. This is perfect. That's fine. So this is for the approach. This angle is really sketchy, in fact, but let me see, is there a way? Yeah, just like this kind of. So you can just pay attention to the analog here. It's a little bit hard to, it's kind of a muscle memory thing. This is a very tight angle, but you want to alter the hop timing that you do. Also, I like to do a wheelie there sometimes if I want to go wider. This is actually a very tight angle, so it might be a little bit challenging. But that's the kind of angle that you want. You want to get it very fast. You might notice my speedo is a lot faster than it was on some of the other ones where I don't get that really fast shoot down angle. I'm going to fix the save state slightly since this is very tight. This is better. So that kind of angle, that kind of camera angle is fast. And that's because I'm hopping early. I'm hopping early. See, I'm like right there. That was pretty much perfect old shortcut. Could have been a little bit faster and a little bit tighter. But you see what I meant. I landed here. I didn't land on the very tip. I landed here and I was able to conserve my momentum more for this kind of bike tilt, I guess, to happen properly. So when landing, I believe I've spoken enough about this. This will take practice, just so you know. This is not something that happens overnight. But, yeah. Hopping early is the main thing, and then just going tight. And one thing that really helped me was that just letting go of accelerate while you go up here. So not like hopping and then holding accelerate while going down it. So you go completely like, you go not even holding anything, I believe. Let me just see. Yeah, so I let go of A when I go off that. And then right before, or right after I exit, I start holding A. By the way, you can angle into this fence, and the spin drift will throw you around it sometimes. Not sometimes, it will throw you around if you do it properly. Kind of like that. Like, that's fine. And that's very fast. That saves a lot more over just doing a basic hop right. But yeah, I suggest practicing this and trying to get used to it. You don't want to overshoot it, and for the most part, you're going to be landing on that down slope where it's kind of highlighted with the blue. Kind of like here, just while it's sloping down. Because if you land anywhere here, then it is going to get no speed when you start drifting. So I'm going to do a few examples of this. In fact, I might do the whole section. I'm just going to reset and then save state after the Mounds and do the whole section. And I'm going to explain all the outcomes that I get on the different parts. So a reminder that that second alignment, the second red marker from the right. Go low off here, hop left, wheelie, a little bit late, that's fine. You can also do objects off there, that's fine. Missed the wheelie entirely. You don't have to trick off there as well, that's another thing. If you don't want to, you don't have to trick off there. I actually want to go back a little bit. This is... Sorry that this track is really bad to do with save states and explain, but I'm trying my best. So we'll just go from here. You can get weird trajectory. You don't want to trick off that, for example. That was very wide, so that lost a lot of time, and I got weird. Well, I got weird airtime off there, but off the first one I got weird airtime as well. this is wide. Yeah. So right there, those lost a lot of time. That's why, like, that'd be like a 37 lap level cut. But if you want the really good stuff, then you're going to want to land in that spot if possible. Kind of like this, angling tight, go tight, spin drift while letting go of A, and that's just a really good segment right there. I'm going to explain Jimmey at the end, by the way. At the end of this. This will primarily be for old shortcut. So land on the spot, go tight. That was poor. Took that too tight. You don't want to slow down too much as well. You can actually get away with going like pretty fast into it. That works as well. Just landing early. I'm going to try get an example where I do a wheelie in between, because it's actually very helpful sometimes. Like, it saved some of my runs. If I did proper bike tilt, I could get the trick there. So I'm just not going to trick here. Go tight. Spin drift. And that's just a good cut right there. Sets you up good for the boost panel. And yeah. I'm going to do a few more of these. So land in the spot. Get that angle. That's good. Drift right when you land. And that's just no problem. Let's get an ace right here. Hold up. Oh, fucking shy guy. Okay. I'm getting distracted. Land in this spot. That was an accident. That was just me hopping too late and landing in a bad spot. I'm not gonna trick here. Drift right. Landing at the end there was fine. That second half was terrible, but landing on the end there is fine. It's just not as fast as getting it perfect, like where you get that really tight angle, like this. Getting that tight angle is good, like right there, on the end. That can happen as well, that's pretty important. You can get that kind of dull air time when you land from the cut. Right here though, I'm taking it a little bit wider. And also you can hit the iceberg if you do that, but that shouldn't be happening. Doing that is a lot better, where I'm taking it very close to the yellow fence. That's just unfortunate QM right there, but by getting slow, airtime going up, it might be controllable, but I'm not sure. Even this is fine. I hopped too late there, overshot it. Doing this with save states is, like mentioned before, ridiculously difficult, but I'll try my best. Got the parallel angle. Gonna try to take it tight. You can get that kind of, I tried to slow down there. You can get that kind of angle where you hop off and then you shoot really high. That's a little bit unfortunate. I'm not sure why that happens, but it's kind of dead run if that happens. And you just want to focus on your speed going down, really. So, angle inwards, drift right. That was really good. I did a wheelie there to throw me a little bit wider, which helps me with my angle for that and my speed. So yeah, most important things to take away, landing on the spot, drifting tight, and then just going as close as you can to the yellow fence and doing the spin drift input. Reminder that if you check the input viewer, I should have mentioned this earlier if no one saw, but it's a right, left, right on the analog, kind of like that. That was of course really, really weird approach going into it. That probably could have just hopped right, but that's the inputs for the spin drift. That's a little bit wide, but it saves. Still fine. I'm getting a good alignment going into the zippers. That was kind of wide. Even when you're wide like that, like yes it loses a little bit, but it's not horrible. You can definitely continue. You can hit like low 36s by going wide. Your Moguls are just very important though. It's all a flow. That's really what this track is. That kind of airtime happens when you hop really late as well. It's not ideal, but you can get some really, really good cuts with it. But this is mainly what you want. That is perfect, except I shot it a little bit too wide. I could have gone a little bit faster. And yeah, fixed the angle slightly. That angle was kind of a Jimmey angle, but you can recover those mostly. The parallel angle is pretty good for like a very consistent cut, but if you want the really fast shit, like this is parallel, so it's going to work most of the time. That spin drift, I spin drifted way too much there. Didn't need to spin drift that aggressively. That was an example of a hop trick. But that is good, do a wheelie. That's a little bit unfortunate, I didn't do a proper delayed drift when landing. Oh yeah, also another thing on those moguls, whenever you're going to land on top of one of them, you kind of want to tilt a little bit. You don't really want to be holding hard nose dive. You want to try to land softly onto it, which will allow you to get like something where, like you saw before, I got completely stopped by hard nose diving. You can try control it a little bit. That's another example of a wheelie that throws you a little bit wide. And that leads well into this section right here. I'll do a few more. That was poor. I haven't really gotten the perfect mogul just because the save states are really difficult. I'm just trying to land on the spot. That was good. And that lands well into here. So one thing to mention for the cut, I'm going to try to get a proper save state before. Kind of like this. This is a good example right here. So see how I'm very tight when I'm doing the landing. I'm just going to have some water. So right now I'm very tight when I'm trying to land. So this will make nosedive landing really difficult. So what you can do, I'm pretty sure since I'm unpausing it won't let me do it, but you can just land in a tail dive and it will throw you wider. So there isn't really much to this MT besides, I believe you want to rock it a little bit. Let me have a look. Let me pay attention to my inputs. So, yep, it's kind of a rock. Now the most important part, let me just resave the save state and get a proper one. So here. This is very important, and a lot of people get this wrong. I see a lot of people, including myself, at a lower level, where you think hitting both of these is fine, and then you exit very, very low, or you enter very, very low, and then you do massive dips like this, and then you miss the last turn and complain. So the way that you want to do this is by doing a wheelie onto here. You don't have to always wheelie when you're landing from the double onto this. It's a little bit, it can overshoot you sometimes. Hitting here is also really good, but sometimes you'll overshoot it. So if you're trying to get, like, let's say a mid to low 149, like at the 148 level, probably anything, if you're going to go for like a 149.4 lower, I'd start doing this wheelie. But anything mid 149 or higher, I'd be just releasing the MT and trying to hit this corner right here where it slopes. Yeah, this is a slope right here, and then all of this is where you want to hit. Now the entry onto the zipper is very important. A lot of people will enter very, very like low, kind of like this, but in reality you want to enter right where these points converge, and that would give you a really good angle for the zipper. So on these zippers, I might be explaining this fast. I'm actually just going to do some examples of landing onto it. Is there a way I can do an MT here? I can just kind of like that, and then just converging onto it like that. I wasn't doing the zipper properly, by the way. I'm just trying to demonstrate the landing. Just hitting that and then entering there. Be landing here, kind of releasing it like that, and you'll be readjusting for those on the zipper. So for the zipper, I'll be going over wheelie zippers separately, but for this zipper right here, the main thing you want to focus on are the small dips. You don't want them to be too big, and you want to focus on kind of a rhythm. So like mentioned, you want to be entering. Why is these save states so horrible, dude? But you want to be entering there, and you want to do these little right tabs, as you can see on my input viewer. A lot of people will get that wrong. I'm actually just gonna go from here, like fuck it. But just doing these right taps, you don't really want to be doing drifts. But just these right taps on the zipper. And you want to have a little rhythm until the very last one, so it's gonna be like right taps like this. And at the very end, you have to do one extra dip, like one big one. So it's small ones, just right taps. And the exit is the most important one, definitely. Right there, what I did while entering on, I did a drift. So on this one, if I'm going to shoot too high, I can do a drift and like quickly readjust it. So it's kind of like when you're shooting up, you can just do a drift if you want to like readjust and try to get into the rhythm of doing those small little dips like there, do a drift and then tap tap. And that leads nicely into the last trick. But yeah, the most important thing for this entire section is just hitting this corner and entering here. You want to enter where this point converges. Now for wheelie zipper, it's mainly just not really getting the zipper like where you ride onto it the entire time like that, because that can be a little bit inconsistent sometimes. But just trying to get a wheelie, and then there are two ways you can leave it. You can do a wheelie cancel like I did there, or you can hop out of it. Right there, I'll do the hop, and that works fine. Or I can, that also works as well, just doing a drift like that. And also you want to mainly execute a drift while going onto the wheelie the triangle. So you'll be doing a drift kind of like that. Sometimes you want to cancel it really early if you can tell that you didn't get a good one. Kind of like there. That wasn't very good. Or the angle just wasn't going to work. That will work. I'm going to do a wheelie cancel. You want to wheelie cancel a little bit earlier than if you're going to do the drift method. So I might wheelie cancel there, do one big dip, and then try get that last trick, which I didn't get there. Here I'll do a drift, do a hop. Just landing in that spot on the last trick is very, very crucial. Sometimes just going for wheelie zip isn't worth it on some angles. Even that's fine. If you're not getting the maximum amount of boost, that's fine. But yeah, like that. You have to be very careful with it. That was actually perfect. You want to be very careful to not get wheelie locked here. That's one of the biggest things. Like getting wheelie locked like that, like right there. That's exactly what I was just talking about. Getting wheelie locked there is really, really important to avoid. That's why I like doing a wheelie cancel. If you get that kind of the zipper where it kind of like stutters you and it like holds you on, like not like that, because you can visually see that I'm doing the bounces up on the zipper. Those once again with the bounces, so I know that I'm not going to wheelie lock. That's just missing the last trick because I'm not on a D-pad. Kind of like that, except you stay on it and it's kind of stagnant. You want to be doing a wheelie cancel, kind of like that. They literally right like that. When you notice that you get that, just do a wheelie cancel, and hopefully that will set you up for this ending. So for this ending, I'm just going to explain it without a save state. What you want to do, and what you might have seen me doing already, was right before that little ending section, I do one big dip, and that sends me down like this, where I'm able to scoop. Pretend that you're scooping some ice cream here, right? And you scoop up like this, and this will give you the trick most of the time. So to pay attention to that when I do this, I'll be doing it with wheelie zipper, since it's harder, and it just demonstrates how to do it. Actually, I'll do it without it first. There's just no wheelie zipper. Tap, tap, tap. One big scoop, like that, scooping the ice cream. And you don't want to go too high off the last ramp as well. Kind of like that. And on the landing, you want to be doing a wheelie cancel as well. That's important. Scoop that ice cream, go high. That was a little bit, that was the high down trick animation. You don't always want to go really high, but like that's fun. And then right after you land, you want to do a wheelie cancel for a good landing. A little bit after, not when you land, but a little bit after. You can see me on my D-pad doing it. It might be hard because the track's white, Oh yeah, the Shy Guys might throw you off a little bit. If you ever find yourself in an instance where the Shy Guys are here, you want to be extra paying attention to how you do these dips and how big you want to do this last dip to avoid them if necessary. And if you're on Nunchuck, I mean, if you're on D-pad, you can just spam the shit out of the last trick and it will get it most of the time. But if you're on Nunchuck, you have to shake pretty kind of like late, so you wheelie and trick at the same time. And in terms of what tricks work on the last trick, honestly, any of them work. It doesn't really matter at all. If you can do side tricks, then I recommend doing a... Pretty sure it's a right trick. Right trick is pretty good. But if you're on Nunchuck, like doing a right trick like that's fine, and doing left trick is also fine. If you're on Nunchuck though, just, yeah, shake the Wii remote, and it'll be good. And you can miss the last trick like that. It doesn't really matter if you miss it. I lose a little bit, but... There, I accidentally cancelled my wheelie. But it's just really about how you recover from the last trick. And you can also do a drift at the very end of this zipper. If you're, like, not really comfortable doing the, we can call it the scoop the ice cream. Let's make that a thing. If you're kind of scooping and you're landing very late, and you know you're not going to get it, you can do like a hop and a drift, and you should be able to still get the trick and hit the zipper instead of going around it. But yeah. Just be extra mindful of how long until you do that last dip. I'm going to do a few examples of this with both of the methods. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing the ace. Definitely not. There I could have done a drift and saved that probably. Right there. That was the high side trick animation. Shy Guys are a little bit tricky to navigate sometimes. That happened because I shook my Wii remote too early. I mean, this is one of the things where nunchuck can be a lot more tricky. Like right there, that just doesn't happen on Classic or GCN. Right there, if I angled myself properly, I could have gotten that with the hop. Just like that, that works. And you want to be holding, when you exit, holding hard right, and right it'll wheelie cancel. Dude, yeah, nunchuck sucks, dude. Don't use nunchuck. They should have wheelie cancelled there a lot earlier, since I noticed that I kind of stuck. That was just very poor. Poor reading of the zipper. Scoop down. Perfect. I wheelie cancel a little bit later than there, not to bounce. That's an example of shooting high. That's what happens if you shoot high, because that's just less time you're spending on the ground. So, getting the lower trick is preferred, like the lower trick animation. But if you really struggle to get the last trick, then you can go for the high one. Like, that's a high animation, but that works perfectly fine. And the lap transition, it really doesn't matter. It's just a delay drift, same as lap 1. You want to try to get that angle. You also can do a delay drift. Also an insta drift. Also, no. A delayed wheelie. Going into it. I missed the wheelie down that last trick. But if you're angled like this, let's say, if you're not really comfortable with taking this really aggressive, you can just kind of delay like that. And for the most part, just aiming towards that red right there. So that's pretty much a whole lap of DKS. It's a lot to fit in. I'm not sure if I explained it well. If you have any additional questions, please leave a comment on any specific part that I could have explained better, or feedback, anything you'd like, and I'll try to respond. So I'm going to do Jimmey now. That's what I'm going to do my best to explain. This actually might take a little bit, but I'm just going to drive a lap here to get to the Jimmey. You can just watch. Left trick. I just missed the trick there because I'm bad. Moguls. Those are perfect. Landed on the sweet spot. Now that leads into the Jimmey. So, this is an absolute bullshit fucking all the above. Just really horrible strat overall. It makes the track really unenjoyable. So with this, one thing that a lot of people will kind of get wrong is that they're gonna like stop their drift really early. It's really hard to do through the save state. They're gonna stop their drift early and then try to do some shit like that and then like that. And that actually almost worked. But that's not fast. That's not the way I'm gonna show you. They're also gonna go way wider here, and then they're just gonna try like kind of scoop it up like this, kind of like that. Like this is just not consistent to any degree. There's like a 2012 Jimmey kind of doing it like this. So instead what I'm gonna show you is my personal way of doing this. So to do this, I'm actually gonna start back here because it's gonna simulate more of a run instead of a controlled one. So we're gonna do this save state again. I'm just going to save state it and then drive up and explain what I'm doing. Okay, so for the most part, you're going to want to be landing in the same spot, maybe a little bit over. You can go for a wheelie here if you'd like. I prefer doing a wheelie here. It just helps because it's a little bit different compared. It really depends. And you want to be doing an insta-right drift, holding hard right the entire time. Now, when you let go of A, this is very important. You're always going to be wanting holding right the entire time. There's no point in this entire setup where you shouldn't be holding beyond this middle part of the analog to the left. You should never be holding to the left. You want to always be holding to some degree to the right. So when you let go of your drift, and I encourage you all to be really aggressive with your jimmies, don't pussy out on them, don't, because that's just when they're not going to work. So when you let go of A, you're still going to be holding hard right. And then on the drift, it's a spin drift, so it's going to be a right, left, right on the stick. And you're going to want to be going a lot faster into this cut than you might initially think. So this is the approach for the Jimmey. This is just not going to really be... I'm not actually going to be going for attempting the second half properly. So we'll mainly focus on this beginning. And you also might want to play the Moguls a little bit safer. So I'm not going to trick here. Wheelie. That. Kind of. You want to be a lot faster though. Like that was very poor. Just because the angle going, this is better. Playing aggressive like that. That was just way too late of a drift at the very end. Or a very late spin drift. I can go for a trick here. By the way, I'm no expert at Jimmey. I just know how to do it to an extent. So you might want to ask someone who's more qualified than me with help on this. These attempts have been very bad. I apologize. I'm just trying to get something that's realistic. I'm landing very short. I need to go a lot faster into it. This is good. Landing, or just the trajectory in general is all. That was alright. I could have overshot it a little bit more. Probably should have. And we'll be going very close to that yellow fence as well. That's something that's also really important. I actually haven't really gotten a proper one, like a proper approach, but you want to be going very close to this fence in general, and you just want to be very fast going into it. Like this. Going fast, like that. Except I didn't really do the correct inputs at the very end in midair. But just the approach in general, you just want to be going fast. Because it makes your second hop a lot easier to get a fast cut. I'm not going fast enough into that, dude. Yeah. Sometimes you don't even want to let go of accelerator at all. Like when you're doing that. Like, that is a lot better compared to what I was doing before. You just don't even want to be letting go of the accelerator half the time. Kind of like that. Overshooting it is better than undershooting it, in my opinion. Mistimed that hop. And one other thing for the Jimmey I'll mention is that when you're going off, you're going to be wanting to adjust midair, obviously. And I like to go neutral when I'm off, and then I'll teledive on what I see. The later you tail dive it seems, the better. You don't want to tail dive too much, or else when you do the spin drift, you're going to hit the invis wall. And you want to hop as late as possible. That gives the fastest cuts. That was just poor. That was just poor. This is really hard to like explain on a tutorial style, but I'm trying to explain the mechanics behind it. I'll do a few attempts at it. I mean, these are attempts, but they're not good at all. The angle is very tricky though, like doing a proper one. I just mistimed that hop, didn't land on the right spot. That I'm just drifting too late at the end. If you drift very late at the end like that was, you're just not going to get the right amount of speed going off of it. These angles just going into them have been really bad. Like that kind of tight angle is really hard to work with. Like it works sometimes, but it's just really difficult. You just want to be, yeah, more like this. It's a lot more comfortable. Not timing that hop properly. Yeah, you want to be a little bit wider. Helps with the speed. Speed management is a lot easier. And landing on the right spot, just consistency in general is easier when you're wider. Yeah, that's the main thing I was getting wrong, I'm pretty sure, from the early attempts, was starting my second drift too late, or my spin drift. That would have been perfect. I'm pretty sure I tail dive too much. And also it's a left hop most of the time off of there. But if you know that you might hit the iceberg, then you want to do a spin drift, kind of like there. I knew I was like going to be really testing if I was going to hit it or not. So I did a spin drift there. And also, one thing that, in the most ideal scenario, you're going to be wanting to hold bottom left going off of the, like landing here. You go to bottom left. That I just hopped too early. I just didn't hit the right spot, or didn't hop on the right frame. Second drift was too late, too slow going into it. I can do a trick off here. And yeah, being more conservative with your Moguls definitely, like I definitely could have tricked off there, but if you just want to get an attempt at it, if you're on pace lap 3 for example, then just make sure you land on that spot and get the rough alignment. I didn't spin drift early enough there, but to avoid having to spin drift at all, I should have not tail dived as much. I'm just going to do a few attempts at this and explain what I'm doing. That was a little bit of a tricky one. My second drift started too late, or my spin drift did, and I was very tight. There, I just completely messed up my inputs. But I suggest watching Water Code Input Viewer and a lot of other runs that might not be as fast. This is like a 2012 Jimmey angle. Yeah, like people go like that and be like, oh, I made it, but in reality, old shortcut is probably faster in that case. Like doing one like this. Like that's probably faster than the Jimmey that I just did. Almost. Now that I think about it, for the most part, most of the time, I'm probably not going to be doing a wheelie when I land from here. Unless I'm doing it at the very end like that as kind of a setup. That I just completely overshot. Yeah, an angle like that is hard, so you always want to be tight on this cut. Yeah, these look a lot better than my Jimmys from 10 minutes ago. Even an angle like that can work if you do some big spin drift, but you have to change, it like messes with your muscle memory a lot. And if I'm starting very wide like that, then you see how I have to kind of go neutral for like a lot earlier, compared to being more angled like that. What the fuck, I've never gotten that before. Got like a wall clip during it. Yeah, being tight is a little bit of a challenge. And also being wide like this. That was just, I completely messed up my inputs. But yeah, this is a lot of a, kind of a feel thing. It's really hard to describe. There's a lot of variety to it, but for the most part, it's a feel thing. I want to try to get one more good one, and then I'm going to move on to just driving some laps and explaining what I'm doing. This is a very long recording. I'm not sure if I explained everything as best as I could have with editing and everything, but I hope that with, like I said, I had timestamps that people can pick up a few things from this video. Like that would have been a perfect 84 if I'm getting that. Like being tight like that is just really good for fast cuts. Like just being close to the yellow when you launch off. But if you're like that and you start wide and then you swing, if like you go really tight, then you're gonna have to go neutral a lot earlier. But you have a risk of overshooting it. And you also want to hop as late as possible, as I mentioned before. I just tail dive too much there too early. So if I didn't tail dive as much, I'd probably hit the spot. You don't want to be landing in a drift as well from these moguls. It's just usually landing in a neutral into a drift. That was just bad speed going into the landing. This landing made it really hard. That I just went too tight, didn't have enough speed. That hop trick should have worked. You can tail dive a lot on those and try to get a hop trick. I just want one good one, that's all I want. That was just being way too wide. That would have been absolutely perfect, besides maybe a little bit faster of a cut, but that entire sequence is really good. If you're barely overshooting it like that, then it's fine, honestly. It's like, it's better than undershooting, that's for sure. Like these angle, like that one was really bad. You can do risky shit like that? No way that works. Okay. That's like, it makes, but it's not really that good. I should have hopped later. Okay, now what I'm going to do for this ending segment is I'm just going to drive some laps and explain what I'm doing. Just kind of as a summary. You can hop right into the cannon like that if you have a bad angle. Hop left when I land. Try to get low air time. Aim in between. This is fine. Land on the spot, roughly. This is very tight. I have to do a wheelie when I land because it's so tight. And what the fuck is that air time? That air time is just bullshit. I'm gonna do wheelies up here. Do a dip at the end, trick, counter the wheelie, re-wheelie. That's a really tough angle to deal with. So I have to hop into the cannon, hop left, late wheelie there because my angle, go low. My finger slips off my analog. Go tight with a spin drift. Nose dive, land on the spot. I can do a wheelie here from this angle, and I miss the wheelie. Cancel the wheelie zipper early, do a big scoop, and cancel the wheelie at the end. And even that was a 36 somehow. I'm very far right here, but that's fine, because I can probably land on the slope and not get bounces, just like that. But then I have to compensate a lot more by wiggling my analog, and that happened because of it. Aim at that second red. This should be a good first turn. this very tight. You can still, like, even if you miss the wheelie, you can still continue. Not too big of a deal. Try landing this spot roughly on parallel, so I'll be a little bit wide here. Scoop, and cancelling the wheelie there is very important. Timing that chain's also impossible on nunchuck, I swear to God. I'm a little bit wide here, so I might have to hesitate here a little bit to get a low one. Hop on a land, late wheelie. Tail diving and nose diving during the Moguls as well to try to get proper airtime. That was a really good cut. That was an example of the hop drift at the end. This would be a really good lap, probably. That's pretty solid. I'm really wide here, but that's fine. Because I'm going to land on this slope right here, but then I have to hesitate slightly. Hop on a land, late wheelie. Low tricks, just going low as possible. I'm not going to shook on this last one. Have to cancel the wheelies if I only do one big dip. Cancel the wheelie, re-wheelie. That's probably a 150. Yeah. Overshot that a little bit more than usual, but that's fine. It's good. Tail dive here to hit that mound. Perfect, perfect. Landing pretty early here, so... do one big dip at the end to get the last trick. That should be 36, definitely. Yeah, that's actually a really good lap one for what happened. I thought that was going to be like a 0.7, I'm not even kidding, but... 0.4 open is very solid, that's 148 pace. Accidental ride trick there. Go tight, spin drift. And that's just bad luck on that. Yeah, that's going to conclude the tutorial. I'm really sorry that it was a little bit inconvenient with save states, but as a whole, I hope that some of you were able to get something from this. It was very long, I'm aware, and I'll try my best to make next week and the following week's ones better, and I'll put more effort into them. And yeah, overall, I hope you guys were able to enjoy this to an extent, and I'm fine making these if people are able to enjoy them and get some value from it. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.